All right, guys. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Too Many Hobbies podcast. I am your host, Brian Althorpe. So, because of my lack of planning, we do not have a guest this week. There's just been a lot going on, but I wanted to jump in here because there's a lot of cool stuff that's going on, that's happened, and I like to recap the early season, so we're going to do that today. So, starting with the early season. So, we started on Friday, September 1st is when dove season opens here in Ohio. We had 7 guys out at my buddy Brian's quarry. Brian was on the podcast last season. We talked about building your own duck boat and what your dream duck boat is. He's a really good person to talk to about that. He's done a lot of good work on his own boats. And if you guys haven't checked out that episode, please go back and check it out. So he's got a nice quarry in Huron, Ohio, just off the lake, and he has a lot of doves there. So last year we did opening day at his quarry. This year we decided to do the same. Just like last year, it was fairly successful in the morning. Towards the evening, they got better results after I had already left. We had 3 dogs, so we had Brian's dog Ace, we had my buddy Shane's dog Max, which if you guys watched the 40 mile per hour hunting video from last year, that's Shane's dog and Shane's boat. And then we had Boomer, we had 4 extra gunners with us, so there was a lot going on, and dogs definitely felt that, especially for the first day of the season, getting them back out, knocking the rust off. So it was a good time getting out. I think we shot 35 doves in the morning, so there was some good action. Boomer himself did not perform how I would have liked him to. He got a little excited and took off a few times. So we were able to correct that by the end, but he was definitely reared up and ready to go. So knocking the rust off. It was a good opening day of dove. I got a lot of good footage, some great pictures. I wanted to focus more on the filming part of it. I wasn't too concerned about shooting a bunch of doves. It was just nice to get out, get Boomer out, hang out with those guys, and have an opening day dove season. So it was a good morning. Had a lot of good conversation. A couple people that I haven't met before. If anybody's met me, you know that that's one of my favorite things is meeting new people, having some good conversation, and it was a very good opening day for doves, and can't really ask for much more. The slate rock quarry that we were in makes for some really interesting retrieves because the doves blend in very well to the rock, and it makes it pretty difficult for the dogs to find them. There was a couple times that even doves fell in between the cracks of the rocks, and that then you have to go out there, and the dogs can sniff them. They can't move the rocks, so then you have to go out there, pull up the rocks, get the bird out. We were set right in front of a pond, so we've done some training in this pond before with Brian, and we're able to get some water retrieves as well on the doves because they came in. We set about 5 or 6, it might have even been 7 dove spinners out with some pigeon decoys, and the spinners were set on top of a hill that was right in front of the water, and so the doves would come in. By the time that we shot at them and they turned out, they'd land in the water. A couple of them landed in the cattails of the water, which also made for some interesting retrieves. The rock there is very tough on the dog's feet, so Boomer had a little bit of a rub, little sore on the side of his pad. I know that Brian said that his dog Ace got a little cut on his paw. So anybody that hunts the early season and you're in that kind of terrain, just make sure that you're looking at your dog's feet. And we were looking to take Boomer out for teal the next day, so I made sure that I checked him over before we were going out for that. So leading into that, so teal season opener was on my birthday this year, so that was fun. Every every other year, every 3 years maybe, opener for either for Goose and Teal here opens the same day, and that generally will fall on my birthday, which is kind of fun. And so my buddy Mike and my friend Tyler, that has been in, I think he's been in some previous videos. He was in the opening day video for Middle Harbor. Um, Mike was in a couple of videos as well, pheasant hunting. There's some duck videos, and actually Mike was with us opening weekend of Goose in Middle Harbor as well. Anyway, so Mike got a marsh draw. Here in Ohio, we have lottery draws, and he invited me out. So we were able to have a secure spot to go to for opening day and not have to sleep in the parking lot and all the other crazy stuff that people do around here. Which is a side note, it seemed like there wasn't as many people out sleeping, and I don't know if that's due to lower teal numbers. I know that we saw a good amount of teal, but wasn't overwhelming. And I know that in some spots, especially lakeside marshes here, generally in the beginning of September, there's a lot of blue wings, and didn't really see that kind of number. From the lottery hunt that we were at, there was only probably two or maybe three other groups out, which I find so insane that people just don't use these lottery draws, especially on opening days. I don't understand that at all. But so we got out. We ended up harvesting 8 birds. We lost 2 of them. One of them was in a spot that we weren't going to be able to get to, and another one I think dove. Boomer and I looked for it for 20-25 minutes. He was absolutely exhausted by the time that we got done looking for that bird. Where we were set, the state had come in and cut a path out to the open water to make it easier to find where you're supposed to be going and access that water a little bit easier. It doesn't make it easier because all the cut cattails and grass just sits in there, and it just absorbs all the water and it floats on top. So when you're walking through it, it just kind of piles up in front of you, and when you're a dog, it piles up very much in front of you. And so when Boomer was making his retrieves, he would get into the where he had to start swimming. He learned to start hopping over it where he could touch, and then when he got to where he had to swim, it would start to pile up, and there'd be 20, 30, I don't know, 40 pounds of this wet cattail and grass piling up in front of him. And so he had to like stomp it down, kind of like pull himself on top of it to push it under him, and that wore him out. The first bird that we shot came in about 5 minutes before shooting time, and so we let it sit there. As soon as it clicked, I think it was 6:59 or whatever, 7 o'clock was shooting time, and as soon as it clicked that, we popped up, hollered at it, didn't get up, shot it, and it was still a little dark. So I don't know if he wasn't ready for it, but by the time that he made it out there, he had gotten turned around so much having to go through all this grass that he lost the marks. So then I had to walk out a little bit, have him come next to me and send him. It worked out fine. He handles well, which is nice. So the fact that we've gone through that plenty of times makes it easier for those kinds of retrieves. It wasn't a super far retrieve, maybe 35 yards, and he did it fine. And then as soon as the sun started to come up a little bit, he was marking birds every time they would go down. He had no problem with it. The one that we sailed next to us was in some much thicker and taller cattails, so we couldn't see exactly where it went down. He got birdie a couple times, and I thought he was gonna find it. I kicked the spots to make sure that teal didn't dive down in that same spot and hold on to something and just drown itself. Never found it, and you hate that kind of stuff because that's what You know, you've got the dog for, but you give it your all, and at least you're giving it a, 110% effort having that dog with you. So it was nice that we had him. He saved us from a lot of walking. My wader boots did not agree with my legs because I wore shorts, so it cut through them pretty nicely. I've got two nice scabs on my calves, um, and if I would have had to go get all of those birds, it would have been a lot worse. So we're happy that we had Boomer out there. He did a fantastic job. I got some phenomenal pictures of him, and if you guys haven't seen that video yet, it is up on the YouTube channel. It's doing fairly well, and it came out nicely. I had some camera issues, which really bugs me about these. I don't know if the GoPro cord wasn't plugged in all the way or something on the camera. But what happens with the Hero 8 is when you don't have a fully charged battery. Well, if it's charged at all over like 5%, then it's fine. But it gets down to 0%. It takes forever to charge it up past 5% with the little external batteries that I use. So if it's below like 3% and you're recording, there's times that it'll just like cut off the video feed and it'll keep recording the audio. So I had to swap out the Hero 5 battery so that I could keep the Hero 8 running. But I had a nice setup where I was using two GoPros, and I had one on the sled next to Boomer's blind, and then I had my shot cam. I had the big camera. I had my phone that I do like kind of the B-roll dog retrieving stuff with, and then my head cam. And the head cam gave out a couple times, but I still got it on the other camera on the sled. So all that to say, I'll definitely be checking batteries a lot closer, and probably buy some extras just to have them in my bag in case this happens. But those external batteries are lifesavers. I mean, they record for 6 to 7 hours depending on the temperature, and it really helps prolong. It helps not miss shots because, I mean, aside from the few times that the battery's been at 0%, I've never had other than that, I don't have issues. And then not having to check batteries is awesome, and swap them out. Having it on the loop is exactly what I need, so that I'm not going through 8 hours of footage. I'm just going through like the last 2 minutes of a clip, and it works out way better. But all in all, still got a lot of good footage. And if you guys want to check out that video, please do so. So the next thing is that I decided to splurge, and I bought a brand new 2024 Mercury 115 4-stroke motor for my boat. So my boat has had a Johnson 115 2-stroke since I bought it. It's the original motor that was built with the boat. It was a Tracker Johnson 115. It's a 1993, and if there becomes any need that I would want to have that boat for filming with the R&T or taking people out, that come in from out of town and just want to like go diver hunting or even fishing, taking my family out, taking my grandpa, my dad, anybody, my kids offshore. It's just time. I had a 30-year-old motor, and the few times that it's failed me were not ideal. So I really needed something with a lot more reliability. And so I took it in. I got a phenomenal deal on it. I was actually in a deal for a used one, and that deal fell out from under me. So he offered me a much better deal on not a much better deal, but a better deal than what they're running on them brand new. So I just decided to do it. I don't regret it at all. I mean, I got a great price on it. It was done within a week, and I took it out last weekend, and this thing is insane. Right now it has a 15-pitch prop on it. I was told by the owner that if the 15 was revving too high at wide open throttle, to come back and that they'll swap it out. I already let him know. that it was running at about 7K, which is insane at that RPM. Um, it needs to be somewhere in like the 6,000 range. I think 6,400 is the highest that's supposed to go at wide open throttle. But with these Mercuries, when you buy them, the break-in process is to idle them for a little bit, warm up the motor. Um, then you get it on plane, and you run the majority of your time just barely on plane, so 22 to 25 miles an hour. And then you run it wide open for like 30 to 45 seconds. Um, it helps heat cycle the motor and get it broken in. There's a 10-hour run time before you change the break-in oil. Then you change it at 20 hours, and that's a full service at 50 hours. So it's a pretty cool deal. I took it out, and the boat about did a backflip out of the hole with that 15-pitch prop and all that extra power. It just really showed me how much the two strokes lack in power compared to these new four strokes. Even with them being heavier, it just was insane. I gained 3 miles an hour on the top end just with this 15 pitch prop. Down low, it stood that boat up right away. And the Johnson would do it. It'd stand the boat up pretty nicely, especially going through like really, really like, I shouldn't say really big waves, but 3, 4, 5 footers. Like, it'd stand it up so that I could keep everything dry. And I've made it back plenty of times in some pretty rough stuff. So I can't fault the Johnson, but it was just nearing the end of its life. I mean, it probably has some good hours left for somebody that needs it, but for what I'm planning on doing with that boat, I need something more reliable, and that boat layout is perfect for me. I love the boat layout. I just needed a motor that would be there when I need it. So I'm super stoked about it. We're going to grab that 19 pitch this weekend, take it out, start to learn a little bit more of the trim. My trim gauge is not hooked up to it. I don't know if I still need to do that, but it's definitely not hooked up and functioning. And that trim gauge is helpful because my console sits further in front of the boat towards the front. So I can't really see where the motor is because it's got full transom as well. So I can't really see where that trim is on the boat, but when I start taking off, I can feel it and I can adjust it that way. But I kind of want to get it to a point where, if I put a bolt or a pin in there or something, to where I can just drop it down and I know that that motor is set at the right trim. And then I would like to get that trim gauge working again so that I can start to dial that in a little bit better. That's how I used it on my last motor, and I knew exactly where it needed to be when I was taking off. I knew exactly where it needed to be if I was trying to get top speed out of it. It's just a very helpful tool to have that trim gauge when you can't see your entire motor. So we're going to play with that a little bit this weekend, and we should be getting her pretty dialed before duck season. I'm really excited to have that motor. And lastly, we are coming into the end of the talks for some R&T. I shouldn't say lastly, there's one more thing. For R&T, we're going to be filming in November, so I'll be out in Minnesota with the R&T team filming some hunts. I've also been talking to Sean about some Michigan hunting. We're going to go with an outfitter and go up into Michigan, not too far from here, thankfully, and get some footage for the show, film a couple episodes, hopefully, maybe one episode, and then bounce over to Ontario, and then we're going to try and film those back-to-back in October. So October is going to be busy. We're going to have opening weekend. Next weekend, we'll be in Michigan. A couple days after that, we'll be in Ontario, and then I come back and go to Houghton Lake the following weekend. So then we'll be doing some layout hunting and stuff up there, and then after that, I've got a wedding, and then after that, we're in Minnesota. So the season's going to go by pretty quick, I feel like. There's going to be a lot of good content coming, and it should be pretty cool. Speaking of content, I have been asked, I had 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿 reach out to me about making some review videos for them. So they've sent me some products, and I am going to be doing basically a review month. So I need to film some reviews for them under contract, and then I think that they're going to be asking me to do another separate video. So there's going to be 3 or 4 𝐥𝐤𝐤 review videos, but there's also some reviews that I want to do of equipment that I've used. So I want to do a 𝐦𝐸 Munitions review. I have a lot to say on that one, so you have to stay tuned for that. I think it's only fair that with the amount of 𝐦𝐨𝐵𝐞 that I've been using, that I do some either a review of it or just a haul to show what I'm using from them. And then I have a couple tangle-free ones that I want to do with some stuff that I bought from them last year. And then I might do a shot cam review. I'm going to try and stuff as many reviews into the next month as possible because they're easy to do, they're easy to film, and since we're coming into that part of the year, they tend to do a little bit better during duck season when people are, just about to start gearing up for the season. So everybody figures out what they need in the early season, and then they start looking at what they need for the regular season. So we're gonna have some wader boot. There's actually a deer blind review, possibly another wader review, and then like I said, the 𝐦𝐸, maybe some 𝐸𝐸 reviews, tangle free, shot cam, the whole deal. So make it short and sweet. Let you guys know what was going on. Some fun stuff. Got through some opening day. Talked about the new boat motor, which that video will come out actually as well in the midst of these reviews. R&T, 𝐥𝐤𝐤, way she goes. So thank you guys for listening. If you guys like this and you're on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. If you guys are listening on any of the streaming platforms, be sure to give us a 5-star. Share this with your friends. And if anybody wants to hear anything about Great Lakes duck hunting or just any of the random crap that we talk about here and some guests that we have on, please share with your friends. We will be having Damian Pittman from Punisher Waterfowl coming on next, followed by John Wallace from Wild Game Cook. I want to be able to talk to Damian about his journey through Punisher. They've been kind enough to have me on their show twice, and it's been a phenomenal experience. They're going to come down and hunt during the season as well. They're not too far from here, so we're going to make that happen. And then John just does some really cool stuff with wild game. And a lot of times we get asked as waterfowlers and game harvesters what we do with the meat. And John's going to give us all some pretty great insight on what he does with it and what we can be doing with it as well. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.